Well, we take Breakout Racing League's championship over from the Azerbaijan Grand Prix over here to North America. And now we have arrived at the Canadian Grand Prix. Welcome along, everybody, to Tier 3's Breakout... great start. To Breakout Racing League's Tier 3 championship. And we have arrived at the Canadian Grand Prix here in Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Now, you got 14 corners that make up this pretty historic track. And, well, one of those corners has a certain famous wall. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. The Wall of Champions? Yeah, it's a very nice wall. Some people might not agree, but anyways. But you got 3 DRS zones that take you through this track. One going into turn 1, one going into turn 8, and the other one going to the final chicane. And that final chicane might make the difference here in this race. We will just have to see. Now, this track has also been known for a certain penalty situation. That being that this track can definitely provide a lot of track limit penalties. And that can definitely play a factor here in this Grand Prix. We'll just have to find out how it's going to play a factor. But first, we have to go through qualifying, which qualifying will also have to deal with track limits, so these drivers are definitely going to have fun. Speaking of drivers, though, let's go over to the Drivers' Championship while we're at it, and once again, it is still Gary that leads the championship. He's leading by over 55 points. More specifically, 59 points. He's got 112 points, respectively, 3 wins, and 5 podiums. That's right, he's finished on the podium every single race. Behind him is Redeemer in the Alfa Romeo. He has 53 points to his name. And, well, he's going to want to try and catch up to Gary, but he has to worry about one underdog behind him who's currently just 1 point behind him in the standings, which is going to be very, very tasty indeed. And then 3 points behind one underdog is Yordster in the McLaren. He's gone down 2 positions since last week as he didn't show up, but he is here this time around. We'll see what he can do to try and bounce back in this championship and try and take on Gary. And, well, Gary has been very, very consistent. And that is going to play a key in this race, so let's find out. Gert rounds out the top 5 with 43 points, respectively, just ahead of Echo, in which Echo has 38 points following his unfortunate DNF from the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. We'll see if he can try and bounce back for Mercedes. Then it's Sting in P7 ahead of Nava. Iceman, he got his first ever points back in Azerbaijan, and, well, he also got a podium at the same time. So it was a very good day for the Ferrari. We'll see what he could do this time around here in Canada. And the Quick Tongue rounds out the top 10. Going over to the Teams Championship, and it's Mercedes a long ways away from Alfa Romeo, but not as long as Gary himself. In fact, actually, the gap between Mercedes and Alfa Romeo is just 54 points. Mercedes with 150, Alfa Romeo with 96. And AlphaTauri sit third in with 70 points ahead of McLaren. Then it's Red Bull in 5th, tied with Haas, so they both have 26 points respectively. Then it's Alpine in 7th with 24, Williams with 22, Ferrari with 18 following their podium last week, and Aston Martin grabbing their first ever points this season, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, so that is your championship order for the drivers and the constructors. Now, last week we had quite a safety car infested Azerbaijan Grand Prix. As I mentioned before, it was Gary that took the win there in Azerbaijan ahead of Iceman. And Redeemer rounding out the podium in that race. And Quick Tongue in 4th, Unknown in 5th, Gert 6th, Days Freak 7th, Underdog 8th, Arabian Kirak 9th. And Sig, who although he was in the top 10, he DNF'd. So therefore, he was not able to take points. We'll see what he can do here tonight. Sorry about that, I just had to quickly clear my throat right there. So, I'm not sure if there's really many other talking points going on. Well, I mean, if there's one, we obviously have a new driver in the tier. I forgot to mention that. And it's currently this man in the Aston Martin. Well, he's not allocated in the Aston Martin, but he is a reserve for this tier. It is Koenigsegg. I think that's how you say it. Koenigsegg? Sure. I'm trying to think of, like, the car brand, Koenigsegg. Like the Swedish car brand. And then putting Zig instead of Zeg. And I think that might be it. I don't know. I'll have to confirm it with him after this stream, but yeah. I'll go with Koenigsegg for now, and he'll correct me on that later. But he is currently down in P16. Obviously, he hasn't set a lap time. Only 7 drivers have set a lap time. That's probably due to the track limits, as we saw with the coach at the start of this stream. And we'll see if he can navigate himself through the final corner. Indeed, he does. He's going to blast down that main straight. Where does he put that Aston Martin? He goes on to provisional pole, so already he's showing that he has the pace here tonight. And it's a 1:11.6 for the Aston Martin. So he's already off to a flying start here in Breakout Racing League. We'll see what he can do throughout the rest of this qualifying. Gary currently sits at 4th, the championship leader with a 1:12.1. La Balloon had a pretty decent qualifying lap there with a 1:11.7. He's in 2nd. Quick Tongue in 3rd. Shredder rounding out the top 5. Iceman in 6th, ahead of the coach at Raymond Killerack. And then BRL Kieran is... Well, he hasn't set a lap time, but Raymond Killerack is the last driver to have set a lap time here in qualifying here tonight. We'll see if he will potentially try and hold that. He has a bit of a lowly lap. BRL Kieran with a pretty decent Sector 1 there. They went a little bit deep there at turn 5? No, turn 6, sorry. Turn 6, but we'll see if that potentially will hamper him. But he gets a track limit and validation. That's going to ruin it for him. Echo, he was on a lap, but he has invalidated as well. So already a couple drivers invalidating their lap, unsurprisingly. We've already had one retirement, by the way. I forgot to mention that. That being of the unknown. He retired immediately in qualifying. He suggests he start at the back. And by the way, I have been given a weather report for this Grand Prix. And, well, we're in for a little bit of a spectacle here tonight because we have a wet Canadian Grand Prix. That's right. If you saw Realistic yesterday, you saw that we had quite a bit of rain. And, well, we're going to have some more of it again. I don't know how intense the rain is, but if it's very intense, then, oh boy. We are going to have some fun. We'll just have to see at the end of this qualifying. I just had to quickly do something there. Sorry for going a little bit quiet, but once again, I am back. So we're pretty much halfway through qualifying here. We've still only got 8 drivers that have set a lap time here in qualifying. And I should quickly mention, by the way, as soon as he comes out onto the track, that being Iceman, I'll go over to him in a bit. As Stig now goes on to pole, and holy, what a margin that is. It's a 1:10.7 for the Red Bull, and he is 9/10 clear of the next guy. So Stig clearly trying to bounce back, and oh boy, has he ever. I believe Iceman has now joined onto the track. I just want to quickly mention, by the way, and I'm pretty sure you've already noticed it yesterday, but I've noticed it for quite a while. Ferrari have a bit of a neat little livery going on right here. If you guys saw the actual Italian Grand Prix, you saw that there's a bit of yellow on that car, specifically on the rear wing, on their overalls, and also at the back of their car on the shark fin, and a little bit of the engine cover. Well, that is completely intentional, and it was to celebrate Modena, I believe. I believe it was Modena. If it isn't, then I apologize. But yeah, they put a bit of yellow on the car, specifically on the front, being with the driver numbers, as you can see there. A little bit on the halo, and of course the big ones on the rear wing, and at the back of the car, but not the rear wing itself, like the engine cover, pretty much. And of course the Ferrari logo on the rear of that Ferrari. It's a very nice livery, in my honest opinion. It's not something you would often see, as he immediately dives back into the pits. But yeah, it's a nice livery, in my honest opinion. The symmetry is a bit off for me, if you guys haven't noticed it. I definitely have. I'm a bit of a geek, I guess, when it comes to that. But yeah, a bit of an interesting livery nonetheless. We'll see what Iceman can do here in qualifying. He's currently P9 with a 1:13.2. Can he potentially try and better that? We'll just have to find out. Meanwhile, a couple more laps have been put in. I forgot to see that, as La Balloon went up to P3 with a 1:11.4. And Gary went up to second place now with a 1:10.7. Not quite able to beat Stig in qualifying, but he is there. Gary, once again, showing his pace and showing his hand here in qualifying. And, well, he is back at it once again. Koenigsegg has now been put down to 4th. Jordster went up to 5th. I forgot to mention that as well. Quick Tongue up to 6th. I mean, sorry, no, Echo up to 6th, my apologies. Quick Tongue up to 7th, Shredder 8th, Iceman 9th, the coach rounding out the top 10. I believe, currently on a lap right now, is Gert. And yet there he is through the second sector. Speaking of which, that was an Alpine improving on his lap. I believe that was of Shredder? No, it was Raymond Killerak, my apologies. He went up to P9, just directly behind his teammate. Gert going through the Sector 2 split. I don't know if he's improved on... Well, he hasn't put on a lap. What am I saying? But he's kept it valid, to put it simply. We'll see where he can position that Alfa Romeo, though he's not using his DRS. I doubt there's a visual glitch. Maybe he forgot to turn it on. Oh, nope, he's just diving right back into the pits, so never mind. He quickly abandons his lap, and that is him done. I believe that's an Alpine parked. What's going on there? It looks to be Shredder. What has happened to the Alpine? Has he lost a bit of his front wing? He has, so he's clearly had a moment through Sector... Oh, wait, no, never mind. I'm guessing he had a moment through Sector 2. It looked like he was on a lap, no? Not 100% sure. But he should be diving back into the pits on this lap. And indeed he does. So the Alpines, both the Alpines are going to go into the pits and do their final flying lap. We just got over 5 minutes left of qualifying here tonight, and I believe the next person to come across the line is going to be Koenigsegg. Actually, Koenigsegg went up to P2. Koenigsegg with a great lap and showing once again first off, track evolution playing a part in that, but he goes up into P2 now, getting ahead of the championship leader at the moment. So, the Aston Martin looking pretty pacey here tonight. We'll see if he can potentially try and keep that up. As we're going to go on board with Jordster here through his lap, going through turns 1 and 2. And Jordster said in the Tier 3 chat that he's going to try and bounce and try and get close to Gary, because that's kind of been his main competition. Obviously, the championship points don't exactly relegate that, but if you've seen the past couple of races, well, Jordster has been there in relation to Gary. And Jordster currently a 10th up on his lap time, and right now that would put him... that would put him nowhere near Gary, as he's currently a 2nd down on Gary right now. We'll see what he can do through Sector 2 and Sector 3, going through turns 8 and turn 9. You got to be really careful not to invalidate, which he's keeping it very, very careful. Indeed does the McLaren. And across the Sector 2 split, he's half a second up. He is half a second up. Right now, that will put him P4, which is directly behind Gary. But can he find anything through the final couple of corners down this main straight? And this is where it's going to be crucial. How much time can you gain or lose in this final chicane, as we're about to find out? Jordster braking, and he negotiates that quite nicely. I thought he broke a little bit too deep. Could it be deep, though? We'll just have to find out as he's going to come across the line. Goes up to P4. So the McLaren is now up into 4th, and he only improves by 1 position, though Echo improves up a couple positions. He's up to 5th now, is the Mercedes. So Mercedes currently 3rd and 5th. Obviously, they are leading the Constructors' Championship. And once again, there they are in the top 5. And I'm not sure, they might be able to get in another lap and go back into the pits. It's going to be a bit tight, but I think they might be able to do it. We'll just have to find out. Looking over, I believe one underdog is currently on a lap, and nope, he actually goes straight into the pits, so never mind that. Who is that going and coming over to the final chicane? I believe that is a Shredder. Indeed, it is. He's going to start his flying lap. He is pretty high on ERS, so I would assume he is on a lap. And there he goes. Stag also starts his flying lap. I believe it should be his final flying lap. I don't know. We'll just have to find out, but he's currently on his final flying lap. Go over to Days Freak, who's currently P15. He hasn't set a lap time, as has 4 other drivers in this qualifying. One of them being one underdog, who's currently sitting 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. Gert hasn't set a lap time, so both Alfa Romeos haven't. Kieran also hasn't set a lap time. He set a pretty good first sector. I'm not sure what's going on with him. And Days Freak dives right back into the pits, so he's abandoning his lap. Instead, it's down to the 2 Alfa Romeos. First, I believe, is going to be... Oh, my thing's glitching a little bit. It is going to be of Kieran. I believe he just did 1 out lap. So it's a 1:15.9. That's not going to be enough. Gert, he goes up. He sets a lap time, and it's good enough for P7 for the Alfa Romeo. So a decent lap time there from Gert, and he currently lines up on the 4th row. We'll see if anybody will try and better that as we're getting onto the closing stages here in qualifying. And qualifying is going to be crucial because, like I said, there is a potential of rain as Stig improves his lap once again. And Stig is now with a 110.5, just 0.2 clear, ahead of Koenigsegg in the Aston Martin. Koenigsegg, though, he is on an outlap. Gary is currently on a lap. Yes, I believe he is. Indeed, he is. So let's go over to Gary. Where can he put that Mercedes? Actually, no, he is just starting another lap. So never mind. Apologies for that. There's an AlphaTauri coming out of the pits there. I believe that was of one underdog, and indeed it was. Go over to Quick Tongue here now. And the other AlphaTauri, I believe he's going to set off on his final flying lap. Does the AlphaTauri. Meanwhile, Kieran going through the final corner. I just managed to catch him. Where does he put his Alfa Romeo? P4. Good qualifying there from Kieran. He's certainly lined up on the second row. It's his only lap in qualifying. It was a pretty good lap indeed. Meanwhile, Koenigsegg is coming around the final corner. He's going to start his final flying lap here in qualifying as we've only got a minute left in this session. Well, just over a minute left. I believe the next person to cross the line is it going to be Shredder? No, Shredder is going to dive into the pits. Raven Killerack, though, he's going to start his final flying lap in the Alpine. They've already done a couple of laps, I believe, on those softs, have they not? Oh no, well, Raven Killerack is on only one lap old soft, so I'm not sure how much that is going to affect him. We'll just have to find out as we're going over who is the next person to come across the line. Who's currently on a lap, just looking over. It looks like it's going to be Koenigsegg. And no, actually, it's not. He's down on his time. Does he have enough time to come across the line? No. It's going to be very tight. Does he have enough time to set another final flying lap? It's going to be very, very close. Meanwhile, Loud Balloon, he is going to come across the line to start his final flying lap. Same with Days Freak, same with DeCoach. DeCoach a little bit ways behind. I don't think he's going to make the flag here. So that is going to be pretty crucial. We're going to go over to the Alpine of Arabian Killerack. He is down on his time. He's got Iceman right behind him, and this might actually help Iceman here because he's got a little bit of a slipstream action. You don't have to get slipstream unless it's from your teammate, and, well, he's getting it straight from an Alpine, so there you go. And this could potentially help Iceman on this lap. Will it be enough, though, to boost himself up the order? Currently in P12 with the 113.2. If he wants to challenge for pole, he has to improve by pretty much 3 seconds. He invalidates, though, at the final corner. That's him done. That is him done. Gary is going to come across the line soon. Echo, though, he's going to come across the line in the Mercedes. He goes up to P5. Meanwhile, Gary, he's going to come across the line. Is it going to be enough to go for pole? No, it's not. He misses out by just over a tenth. Gary misses out on pole as we are waiting for Underdog, I believe, to come across the line. He does not put in a lap time. Underdog down in 14th. I believe we're waiting on Loud Balloon. This might be near the end of qualifying, I believe. Loud Balloon currently, he goes into the pits as he invalidated. Days Freak also invalidated. So a bit of an anticlimactic qualifying here. But it is Stig on provisional, not on provisional. He grabs the pole here at Canada. I believe his first pole of the season. I will check on that very, very quickly right here. And indeed it is. It's his first pole here in Tier 3, and he grabs it by just over a tenth from Gary. So Stig on pole, Gary on the front row. Koenigsegg in the Aston Martin in his first race lines up P3. So good lap time there from the Aston Martin. Kieran also out of reserve. He goes on to second row as well, so it's an all-reserve second row. Echo will be in fifth ahead of Yordster, Loud Balloon, Gert, Quick Tongue, Shredder rounding out the top 10. Arabian Killerack, Iceman, and DeCoach outside the top 10 who have set a lap time. One Underdog, Days Freak, and the Unknown not setting a lap time here in qualifying. So Williams down in 15th, 16th, Underdog down to 14th. Stig, though, on pole position for the Canadian Grand Prix. Okay, so it's not a wet start by the looks of it, but it could be a transition of dry to wet here. So that's gonna be crucial. Who is going to be able to time it to go on to a set of inters or wets come near the end of this race? I am being told that rain is at the end, if there is any rain, in fact. It's just a matter of how long until that rain, because if it's around an hour, we might not get any rain. But who knows? Who simply knows? We'll just have to find out. It's going to be an interesting race for sure. You got 35 laps here at the Canadian Grand Prix. It's going to be an interesting Canadian Grand Prix. And, well, who knows who will come out on top. Obviously, Gary's pretty much an easy choice, isn't he? He's finished on the podium every single race so far in this season. Has pretty much been dominant. If he DNFs this race, it'll be a massive surprise, first off. But also, second off, it won't affect him in the championship, as he will still be leading. But that means he won't have the consistency of finishing on the podium in every single race. So I think he wants to continue that. We'll just have to see if he can do it. Redeemer, obviously he isn't here. He's currently in second place, but he is going to be challenged here by Underdog and Yorster for sure, as Underdog is only 1 point behind. Yorster, 4 points behind Redeemer. And, well, that could definitely have a bit of a shake-up. Echo is also not too far behind as well. Same with Gert. So we'll just have to see how this championship will turn in terms of second place, because first place seems a bit of a tall order right now, unless Gary makes a ton of mistakes, which hasn't been common. We've had it a couple times. We had it in Baku, but he made up for it. We had one in Saudi Arabia, which allowed Redeemer to get the win. But other than that, there hasn't really been much. Gary really being the consistent man here. Obviously, he won the Tier 3 championship 2 seasons ago, back in Season 6, just ahead of Ron Swanson. Season 8, however, probably not the best for him. He was in 3rd, but now he is back in Tier 3 once again, and, well, he is currently top of the session. We'll just have to see. I'm just going to say it. I'm just simply going to say, if you guys remember this, back in F1 2012 to 2014, basically, it's a certain line of, can anyone match Vettel? Well, this time it's not Vettel, it's Gary. Can anyone match Gary before he gets 4 wins in a row? We'll just have to find out. So I believe we're just waiting on everyone to put it on their setups, and we're going to look over at the race director here, our trusty old race director, and, ooh. Okay, a little tasty here. We've got quite a lot of action in terms of hards, mediums. It's a bit of split, to be perfectly honest. And, well, of course, the unknown, who's currently down in P16, he went on to a set of softs, so he's going to try and go a bit aggressive here, as the timer is now down. So, we are about to get underway here in qualifying. It's about time. As we are now underway for the formation lap here at the Canadian Grand Prix. Stig on pole, Gary on the front row, Koenigsegg in 3rd, ahead of Kieran. Echo rounding out the top 5. Once again, both Mercedes in the top 5 here in qualifying, really showing that they have the pace here tonight. Looking over at the tires, so the top 4 have started on the hard compound of tire. Echo deciding to go a little bit different in comparison to everyone around him. He's gone on to a set of mediums. Yortster and La Balloon, they have gone on to a set of hards, and then everyone down, except for one Underdog and the Unknown, have gone on to mediums, with Underdog and Unknown obviously going on to a set of softs, so they're going to try and go aggressive at the start of this race. Tire degradation, honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it's actually too bad, to be perfectly honest, so it's just a matter of who has the pace to just really pull away and take the win. We'll just have to find out here in qualifying. Hello? Why am I saying qualifying? Here in this race. And, well, who is going to get the jump off the start, really? Who is going to nail it, and who is going to lead into turn 1? Will it be Stig? Will it be Gary? Or potentially anybody further back? Maybe Echo gets a brilliant start on those mediums. Goes from 5th to 1st off the line. Who knows? Well, It's, well, turn 1, it's always going to be chaotic, and especially here in Tier 3. We've already had quite a few moments in turn 1, lap 1. It can definitely happen again. It can definitely happen again. Last season here in Canada, we had Gary that took the win infamously by over 8 seconds here ahead of Groggy, who lined up in second, and Potato rounding out the podium. So that was your podium last week. Will it be similar? I mean, it won't be similar, well, except for the likes of Gary. But will we potentially see a new podium sitter here tonight? We'll have to find out. Everyone's now lining up on the grid here for the Canadian Grand Prix. 35 laps for this race, and well, who knows what's going to happen as I see Stig invalidate his lap. His starting position. Little bit of a wait here than usual, as we have the 5 red lights on for the Canadian Grand Prix. Round 6, it's lights out, and away we go. Looks like a pretty sluggish start for the front two. The Gary gets a really good launch in the second phase, and that's already a bunch of contact between the Mercedes, and I believe that might have been a Haas, and indeed it was. But Gary leads the first lap, ahead of Steg, ahead of Kieran, ahead of Koenigsegg, ahead of Jordster. So already a bit of chaos, I believe that was, of Loud Balloon and Echo. Indeed it was, Loud Balloon without a front wing, and that is already a crash between Arabian Killerak and the coach at turn 2. So already the virtual safety car has been called out immediately after that. Luckily no retirements in this race, but we already have 2 drivers out without a front wing. And, well, that is absolutely going to ruin the race, that being Arabian Killerak, the coach, and Loud Balloon. Loud Balloon also does not have a front wing. What about Days Free, potentially further behind? No, he has his front wing by the looks of it. Does Echo have any damage, though, is the question. No, he doesn't. So he managed to escape despite that contact. And there's a bit of switching going on. Unknown doesn't have any damage by the looks of it. Same with One Underdog. But safety car has the virtual safety car is now done, and Gary leads the first lap ahead of Stig, ahead of Kieran, ahead of Koenigsegg, and Jordster rounding out the top 5 as Gary having a little bit of understeer there. I'm not 100% sure, but he's still leading into turn one ahead of Stig, and Stig is going to try and capitalize on this Mercedes, possibly try and get back past ahead. Obviously, Stig managed to grab pole. Gary, though, he had the start, he had the run, and that was a very good start from the Mercedes, but he is going to be challenged here from the Red Bull as Arabian Killerak gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. We have 3 drivers into the pits already, that being Loud Balloon, the coach, and Arabian Killerak, obviously all without a front wing, as Stig already gets a 3-second time penalty, so that is going to play a factor. Remember what I said earlier in the stream about time penalties playing a factor in this race? Well, there you go. We've already got 1 penalty in this race, that being of the pole sitter of Stig. Oh, and he gets a little bit loose on the rear. No, he is gaining on the back of Gary here, so that Red Bull looking pretty speedy here in Canada. He sets a purple sector 2 for good measure. Kieran is not too far behind as well. I mean, Kieran is pretty much within the mix. Meanwhile, Stig got a really good run out of the hairpin. Gary having not exactly having the speed in relation to the Red Bull. Can Stig potentially make a move into the final chicane? It looks like he's just going to have to stay behind for a little bit longer, and indeed he does. So that Red Bull just having to stay behind just that little bit longer. Though he gets a decent launch. He hits the wall, though, out of turn 14. But he doesn't have any damage. It looks like he's potentially looking for a move on the inside. He backs out of it, and he's going to have to stay behind. But he takes the fastest lap for good measure. So that's proving that Gary is in a ton of pressure. I mean, that Red Bull's basically pushing that Mercedes through these sets of corners. He's just so aggressive right now, and he's trying everything he can to potentially get ahead of that Mercedes, but that Mercedes is just simply minding his own business. But the DRS is now available on this lap, and that is definitely going to play a factor as Gary has a little bit of a moment. Same with Stig, but here comes the DRS for Stig, and it looks like, no, he's not going to try and get past. That might be a bit tactical here, because obviously the DRS detection point is right here. So I think Stig potentially is going to look for a move into the hairpin, and indeed he is on the inside. He goes a little bit deep though. Gary's going to try and get the switch back here, and indeed he does. But Stig does have some good traction out of the hairpin. He's going to have the DRS as well for good measure, and that looks like a challenge pretty much done for the Mercedes, though Stig is already out of battery here, so there you go. Stig using all of his battery to get close, and, well, not only has he gotten close, he's gotten ahead. And Stig now leads the Canadian Grand Prix, but remember, he has that 3-second time penalty. So now Gary's down to second. Kieran is catching up to these guys as well. So Kieran is definitely in the mix as well for this race. We'll just have to see. His Iceman is into the pits, is the Ferrari, and that looks to be a Williams at the final corner. Indeed it is, that being of the unknown. Doesn't look like he has any damage though, so he is good. Kieran now gets a 3-second time penalty as he is now closing on to the back of Gary. So, already, 2 drivers with track limit penalties, and Arabian Killer Act being the only driver that has sped in the pit lane. And, this race definitely has changed, and right now, once again, it's going in the way of Gary, as La Balloon now sets the fastest lap at the 1:13.5 on those medium compound of tires. So the Haas proving they could have had the pace to be up there, but unfortunately just had a little bit of a hairy moment. And Gary might be out of DRS here, you know, and that might invite the likes here of Kieran. Does he have DRS? Does the Mercedes? Going on board with Kieran, and there's a yellow flag in Sector 1, I believe. Yeah, he does. Gary does have DRS down the straight. So that's played into the hands of Gary's. He's able to keep ahead of that Alfa Romeo for just a little bit longer. Gary gaining around 0.6 off that straight. And, well, it's definitely worked out. He's gained a lot more in that corner. But, yeah, that's definitely playing a factor. That's DRS train helping these three kind of pull away from Koenigsegg and Jordster here. Everyone just kind of neatly separated here, as the top 3 is really one of the closest battles. Another close battle is between Quicktongue and Gert, in which Gert is trying to find his way past that AlphaTauri's. Echo now gets a 3-second time penalty. We've already got quite a few time penalties in this race. Let's look over at the position changes. The biggest mover in this race being one underdog, obviously starting on those soft compounded tires, definitely helped him in this race. He's up 6 position. And, well, the man who has fallen down the most has been La Balloon. He was P7. He's down to P14. And, well, it definitely has not worked out for the Haas. We'll see if he can potentially try and grab some points later on. Maybe he does have the pace. We'll just have to see. And Black Sing in the chat, Gary, best driver. I mean, he is leading the championship, so it's not entirely wrong. It's not entirely wrong. So we'll see if he can potentially grab another second place and another podium, as he has pretty much done this entire season. Meanwhile, bit of a battle brewing for P2 as Kieran is looking for the move on Gary. Gary leaves him the space but gives him the outside lane, and that's going to help Gary defend the inside into turn 1. And Gary able to keep that Mercedes in front of that Alfa Romeo. And Kieran not able to really do anything, so he's going to have to wait just that little bit longer. By the way, Stig is just absolutely pulled from these guys as Kieran is once again all over that. Gary just doesn't seem to have the pace on these hard compounded tires in relation to Stig right now. And that is going to help Kieran as he does have the DRS and he looks quicker than the Mercedes at this stage of the race. But like Stig, he has that 3-second time penalty. So this is really going to play a factor. Kieran, though, having a bit of a moment, though, through turns 8 and 9. And that could potentially cost him, as he's not able to make a move. We have a yellow flag once again. And that looks to be, is that of Days Freak? Indeed it is. Days Freak having a moment. Meanwhile, battle for P9 starting to brew up as Echo's trying to go around the outside of Shredder through the hairpin. And I believe he has managed to make his way past it. Indeed he does. So there we go. That is Echo up into the points. Well, up into P9. Shredder down to P10. As Kieran, once again, is going to look for a move on the other Mercedes. One Mercedes is going out. It looks like the other Mercedes is about to go down as Kieran's on the inside into turn 1. Gary's able to keep it around the outside. Now has the inside for turn 2. The Kieran has that preferred line in terms of traction. And he gets really good traction in relation to the Mercedes. They're going wheel to wheel now through turns 2 and 3. Has Kieran managed to inch himself ahead? No! Gary manages to keep that Mercedes ahead of Kieran. Some great battling between Gary and Kieran. But one thing is for sure is that this has absolutely cost him, because now Koenigsegg is in this fight and he has DRS on these two. So now we have a bit of a 3-car, nearly 4-car train, as Jordster is slowly starting to close up on these guys as well. So we're going to have a 4-way fight for P2 in this race right now. Gary currently leading this pack, and, well, he seems to be doing a pretty good job to coach with a 3-second time penalty now. So that's already 5 drivers, or 6 drivers, with a time penalty in this race. Kieran, once again, he has the DRS going down this straight. Gary looking a little bit low on ERS. He is low on ERS. Kieran fighting for that inside into turn 13. It looks like he's managed to get that inside lane, and there we go. That is Kieran up into second place. If we've had a retirement, that is in the pits, that being of Iceman. And, well, that is not the day that the Ferrari would have wanted. Gert now gets a 3-second time penalty. So now, but with that now, Kieran is up to second, Gary down to third, Koenigsegg up to still in fourth. Though Gary still trying to find everything he can to possibly try and get back past ahead of that Alfa Romeo. As Unknown gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Underdog is also into the pits. Obviously, they started on those soft compounded tires, so they're making an early pit stop in this race onto a set of mediums for both drivers. I mean, Underdog's on the mediums. No, it's hards. That is hards for the Williams. So there you go. Potentially a one-stop in the Unknown? I don't know. And, Redeemer? Peepo. Hi. Yeah, I see you. Don't you worry. So Gary just able to stick within the DRS of Kieran right now. Kieran does seem to have the pace, but he's just not able to pull away enough to get away from that Mercedes. The one thing for sure is that Kieran has a little bit of an ERS advantage. And that is definitely gonna help him. But Gary has that straight line speed by the looks of it. So that Mercedes having pretty good straight line speed. They had made a little bit of a mess out of the final corner. And here comes Koenigsegg in the Aston Martin. Could he potentially make a move on the inside? He thinks about it. And that is actually going to unsettle Gary a little bit, as he went a little bit deep into turn 1, though. It's not going to do anything because he had the track pretty much clear to himself into turn 2. So that Mercedes is able to stay ahead, but he is losing time to Kieran, and he's going to be out of DRS here nearly. It's going to be really tight. Can he manage to get within the DRS? I think he missed out. Go on the back of the Mercedes, and that rear wing, does it open? No, it does not. So Gary, once again, does not have the DRS. Gary not really having the pace in this race. I'm not sure. I doubt it's an issue. He just simply does not have the race pace here in Canada, and that is hurting him, and that's helping the likes of Koenigsegg and Jordster as they're closing up onto this pack. And while Gary's fighting for his life pretty much, those hards just don't seem to be switched up in this race. Koenigsegg, though, he lost a little bit of time through that through the hairpin. But luckily for him, he has DRS, because the DRS detection is quite early, and that's going to help Koenigsegg in this race as he is closing in on Gary. Gary, once again, not exactly having the best exit out of the final chicane. And, well, that is going to help Koenigsegg close up a little bit, but has to stay behind still. Jordster in P5, respectively. Looking over, there's also a little bit of a battle going on for P6 in this race, as Gert is still unable to make a move on Quick Tongue, interestingly. And while Quick Tongue is low on ERS, Gert seems to have a bit of an ERS advantage here. So I'm not sure, maybe he just simply doesn't have the pace to get ahead. I'm not entirely sure. We had a yellow flag, by the way, in Sector 3. I'm not sure what that was for. I believe it was for a Haas of Loud Balloon, so he had a bit of a moment there. Not sure how you have a moment of the hairpin, but yeah, I'd rather not question it. But yeah, Gert just trying to get close, potentially make a move on that AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri against Alfa Romeo. Once again, Alpha v Alpha. Never thought I'd be saying that again, but here we are. La Balloon now with a 3-second time penalty. We've already got... we only have 6 drivers, I believe, without a time penalty in this race, and we're only on lap 10. Lap 10! Well, lap 11 now, as Kieran... sorry, not Kieran, Stig crossed the line for another lap. But yeah, it's amazing how these time penalties have just completely popped up in this race. Is Gert able to make a move into turn 1? He definitely thinks about it. That's not going to be enough, though. Meanwhile, further back, Loud Balloon having a moment through turns 8 and turn 9. And while the Haas's race has not turned out the way he's wanted it to. And now he's been overtaken by Dix Freak and is down to P14. You know, the coach currently in P15. He's 45 seconds ahead of behind the pack, and it's not been his race either. But you never know what could happen. You never know what could happen. Meanwhile, battle for P6 about to ensue once again as Gert... Ooh, looked like Gert was nearly about to go into the wall there, potentially looking for a move around the outside. But has not worked out, so Gert just having to stay behind once again. Raven Killerak is into the pits, by the way. He was on the sauce. He's now going to go onto another compound. Gert, is he potentially going for a little bit of a different line, potentially, to try and get past that AlphaTauri? I'm unsure. As Kieran grabs another 3-second time penalty, and that's now 6 seconds for the Alfa Romeo, and that's going to hurt him. That's going to hurt him in this race. As Quick Tongue spins round! He spun round at the final corner, and that nearly could have been a collision between himself and Gert. Gert just able to avoid it, and he now is up to P6, Echo to P7, Shredder P8, Quick Tongue down to P9. That little bit of a spin, and that has cost him a total of 3 positions. Not what the AlphaTauri would have wanted. But now, the battle for P6 has now gone from a 2-car fight to a 3-car fight. Interestingly, as Unknown gets a 3-second time penalty. But now Echo's kind of joined in on this fight as well. I believe does he have the DRS? He does have the DRS. So Echo now is closing onto the back of Gert, and Shredder is managing to keep onto the back of Echo as well. So clearly DRS train's really playing a factor in this race. And Echo just managing to stay close to Gert, and Shredder able to stay close to Echo. And we'll see if Echo can potentially make a move on Gert. He's quite a ways behind on this straight, though, so he's just going to have to wait a little bit. Meanwhile, La Balloon made an overtake on Days Freak into turn 1, and it looks like that has gone the way of the Haas. And he is now back up into P12. Meanwhile, Koenigsegg is looking for a move on Gary on the inside into turn 1. Gary able to hold it around the outside. Is it going to be enough to make it a move on the inside? They're going wheel to wheel still, and I think Koenigsegg has managed to inch ahead. I think he has, and indeed he has. So now Koenigsegg has made the move on Gary, and Gary is now outside of a podium. Never thought I'd be saying that before, but here we are. Koenigsegg is now up to the 3rd. It's Quick Tongue is now into the pits. And he goes onto a set of hard compounded tires for the AlphaTauri. That could potentially go to the end of this race, and I think it will. So that is a one-stop there for the AlphaTauri, and he's clear ahead of the Unknown in the points. So Quick Tongue, as long as he just keeps it where he is, he will have a shot of points here once again, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 2. I believe that being up to Coach once again. The Coach is not having a good time, and ooh, Gary having a little bit of a moment there through the hairpin. Could that potentially cost him? Now, he does have DRS, though, so it won't really matter that much. Koenigsegg low on ERS here, and Gary, well, he's just a little bit higher than Koenigsegg right here, so that's definitely going to help him. Taking a little bit of an ease, like a simple line there, through the final set of corners, though, so he's thinking that maybe he's pushing a little bit too hard, so he needs to conserve a little bit. Maybe that's the tactic that the Mercedes is going for. The one thing's for sure is that that's going to bring Yordster into the pack as well, because he is within the fringes of DRS pretty much in comparison to these guys. And, well, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. As Arabian Killer gets a 3-second time penalty, and that is... Who is that around? Is that of Days Freak? Indeed it is. It's just not been some certain driver's days, and, well, here we are. Gary's still able to stay within the DRS of Koenigsegg here, so it's definitely helped out. And there's a virtual safety car, interestingly. I'm not sure what's happened. Oh, that's what's happened. Days Freak, I believe, has just lost his front wing. Indeed, he has. So Days Freak without a front wing, and that is going to cause a virtual safety car here in the Canadian Grand Prix. This will be around the pit window when people on the medium compounded tires could potentially have a... Well, not a free pit stop, but rather a cheap pit stop. As, oh! Koenigsegg gets a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I mean, no, he was driving too fast under safety car. And, well, that has absolutely ruined it for the Aston Martin. Oh, things can change within a matter of seconds, and that is what's changed. As Days Freaks retired and left the session. He retired in the pits. But, wow. Wow. That's just unfair, man. He was running well. He was in the podium. And, well, now this race has just been flipped upside down, as the race has resumed once more. And we have a yellow flag in Sector 1. I believe that's just because a bunch of drivers are leaving the pits right now, as Gert has managed to get past one underdog. I believe they might be on cold tires. Well, underdog isn't on cold tires. Gert definitely is. But Gert is now onto a set of hards that could easily go to the end. He goes a little bit deep there, and that's going to allow underdog to go around the outside and easily make the move, and he's up into P6. Koenigsegg grabs a time penalty. A 3-second time penalty. It's gone for bad to worse for the Aston Martin. And, well, he's going to have to start that drive-through eventually. But, yeah, now that's now one underdog up into P6. Gert down to P7, though Gert has that hard compounded tire, which will take him to the end. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. Meanwhile, Jordster has managed to close up onto the back of Gary here now, as Koenigsegg gets into the pits, presumably to serve his drive-through. But Jordster now closing up on what would be, I guess, his rival. I mean, he's his selected rival. I can definitely say that. And they're both on the same compounded tire. Gary having a little bit more pace in hand, I believe. The Jordster just able to stick into that DRS. That virtual safety car potentially helping him a little bit. It's also helped the likes of Kieran, by the way. He's managed to pull pretty much like a 2-second gap between himself and Gary. Now the gap between them is 4 seconds, as Gary had a little bit of a moment there through turn 9. So yeah, this has definitely changed the outcome of this race. That virtual safety car. Obviously, Stig flying high on his own in this race. He's currently in P1 and leading by almost 6 seconds. So Stig just able to stay within the lead of this race. Kieran trying to close into that gap, though it just doesn't. It seems they're almost level on pace, those front two, and well, that's definitely not going to help Kieran. It's definitely going to help Stig though, because Stig is just minding his own business pretty much. Jordster just able to stick behind for now, not able to make a move. No, Koenigsegg he does have the DRS on underdog. He's not able to make move though. He's within the fringes of DRS, pretty much, is the Aston Martin. He's giving it everything he can to close up on that AlphaTauri. He doesn't want to be looking at that rear wing any longer. He's going to have to look at it for at least one more lap. And, well, he can still get a top 5 in this race, but, yeah, it's definitely not going his way. The top 4 have just absolutely pulled away, though the top 4, remember, they haven't pitted in this race. They have not pitted. So Koenigsegg, he's a ways off. He's a ways off, I will believe. But he's not extremely far off, so we'll see if he can potentially try and close up on those medium compounded tires. He just has to make a move on one underdog, unless he can actually use underdog to get closer onto the back of these guys. We'll just have to find out. Jordster having the DRS on Gary once again, but it's just not able to make a move into turn 13 and 14. It seems as if Jordster just doesn't have. He doesn't have the cornering speed, as Raven Killer gets another 3-second time penalty. But it seems as if Jordster doesn't have the cornering speed in relation to Gary. Though, saying that, Gary goes a little bit deep, and that's costing him like 2 tenths pretty much. But yeah, it just seems as if Jordster's losing his time in the corners, but it's kind of all nullified because obviously he has the DRS. So that's definitely helping him in this race. Yeah, just Gary not able to really switch on to. He's not really. Those hards just seem to not be working with him. That really just seems to be the case here. I mean, obviously, he is trying to push. You can see it. He's having a little bit of moments here and there, but it's just not enough. Kieran just seems to have better grip, and Stiggles has better grip. As Shredder now gets a 3-second time penalty. To Coach now with a 3-second time penalty. Time penalty is popping up left and right, as Jordster has the DRS on Gary. He's a lot closer than he was before. Is it going to be enough, though, to make a move here? Not quite. He's going to set it up out of this chicane. Gary getting a decent exit, though, out of the final corner, and I believe that's just going to help Gary to keep his P3 ahead of Jordster. Indeed it does, so that he's going to have to look at that Mercedes rear wing for a little bit longer. So, yeah, that is pretty much what's developing. Meanwhile, Koenigsegg is looking for a move potentially on underdog, as we have a yellow flag. And wait a minute, that yellow flag might actually be important. That is Kieran. That is Kieran. Kieran spun round at turn 4. So now Gary is up to second. Jordster up to third. That is not what the Alfa Romeo wanted. He was running quite nicely in P4 there. And, well, he was pulling away, but now it's just completely unraveled as he's now lost a lot of time. It's 5 seconds back. He's lost pretty much 10 seconds, I would say. 10 seconds. Mad. But now, that leaves Stig to have a gap of 11 seconds over the next guy. Madness. Madness. 11 seconds ahead of Gary. That's exactly what the Red Bull would have wanted here tonight. As Yortster's going to dive into the pits. Yortster into the pits on lap 19. We're coming near the end of lap 19. And Kieran is also into the pits as well. So they're both thinking those hards are pretty much done. Is it going to be a set of mediums for both those drivers? It is a set of mediums for the McLaren. What about the Alfa Romeo? Is what? Okay, well, I guess this game just doesn't like Alfa Romeos right now. As it made Kieran stop as Yortster was coming out of the pits, and well, that's going to potentially cost him, actually. That might cost him, as here comes one underdog in Koenigsegg. He might be able to stay ahead by the time they make it to turn 2, and well, they're actually going wheel-to-wheel, underdog, and Koenigsegg having that inside lane into turn 2. Your underdog, though, having that traction on the racing line, and underdog able to stay ahead, so some great defending there. And one thing's for sure is that underdog is now going to have DRS on Kieran ahead, because he is within that 1 second window. So with Kieran pitting, and obviously having that spin, that's now helped. That's now helped underdog. There you go, DRS wide open for the AlphaTauri, and well, this has just completely helped him. As Stig is now into the pit lane. And that looks to be, once again, a set of mediums for the Red Bull. And he should easily come out in P2 as Gary's running the final corner. So Gary electing to stay out just one more lap. But Stig is now going to be in P2. And Gary now takes the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix once again. And here comes Stig. And, well, he's trying to get temperature to his tires already. And there you go. He's clear ahead of Yortster and into P2. So now, all the Red Bull has to do, warm up with those tires, and then just do what he was doing previously, and log laps. He's only 5 seconds behind Gary, to be fair. So I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world, because if Gary pits, well, he's still gonna come out behind Stig. So if there is a safety car, which we'll just have to see, as Quick-Tongue is now into the pits. But yeah, if there was a safety car, Gary would still come out behind Stig. So at the end of the day, the Red Bull's looking pretty handy. He's looking pretty handy in this race. And before this race, he was actually having troubles with his Xbox, as the coach gives a 5 second for speeding in the pit lane, and he retires into the pits for good measure. As Gary is once again staying out for another lap. Saying Gary P1 for the World Drivers' Championship. Well, I mean, he's already leading the championship, as it stands. He's already leading. And, I believe Gary just let Loud Balloon by, and that's cost him a bunch of time now through Sector 1. And, well, look how close Stig is. Stig is nearly within a second of him. And that actually will hurt Gary, because now, if he pits, he will come out ahead of Yortster. Gary wins the championship with 6 races to go. Well, we're on round 6 right now. 6 rounds to go, round 11. You're thinking he would win it in Netherlands? That'd be madness. As meanwhile, we have a bit of swapping going on. I'm completely missing this. My apologies. As Koenigsegg is up into 4th, Underdog in 5th. Kieran has managed to make his way past his teammate. Is now up into 6th. Gert down to 7th. Actually, Kieran might have had a moment. I don't know. But he's down to P7. He's down into P7 now. And meanwhile, Stig has DRS on the Mercedes. And, well, the Mercedes says, nope, I ain't having that. He dives right into the pits. And, well, he's going to go onto a set of mediums, does the Mercedes. Stig sets the fastest lap with a 1:12.8. So Stig, once again, showing his hand here in the Canadian Grand Prix. Here comes Yortster, though. He's coming around the final corner. It looks like he's going to be able to get ahead of that Mercedes. And, indeed, he does. So now, the undercut has worked out. Gary really losing pace at the end of that. And now, Yortster is up into 2nd place. Gary up into 3rd. The yellow flag in Sector 1. And in Sector 3, Kieran's had a moment. He's lost a bit of his front wing. And he has retired in the pits. He has retired. Meanwhile, Loud Balloon, he had a moment. Oh. That was looking real sketchy. But he's managed to keep it. And now he has been lapped once again by Yordster here. Yeah, Kieran now retiring in the pits. And that is going to give Quick Tongue now P10 in this race. So Quick Tongue back up into the points in this Canadian Grand Prix. As Underdog now gets a 3-second time penalty, and that's actually going to help Gert, because I believe there's... No, actually, no, Gert has 3 more seconds in relation to Underdog, though. He does have DRS, and he definitely has better tires in relation to Underdog. Underdog struggling on those 15-lap-old mediums, but it looks of it, and Gert obviously having only 8-lap-old hards, and those hards probably are looking pretty nice right about now. As Loud Balloon retires, that is into the pits. And, well, that is now the 5th retirement in this race. And surprisingly, all of them have been in the pit lane, by the way. I just want to quickly mention that. All of these have been in the pit lane. So, with that, that's how that's been. As Gert now makes a move on Underdog for P5. Underdog, though, he's going to try and keep it around the outside, and that's contact. That was contact between them. And Underdog having a snap on the rear. He's managed to keep it, though, but he is now down to P6. Gert up to P5. And that was probably just a little bit of a racing incident, just pinching a little bit too much, potentially. I don't know. I'll have to have a second look at that, but it just looked like a little bit of a racing incident. There's no damage, luckily for either one of them, so they've managed to escape that. They have managed to escape that. So, all's well that ends well, I guess you could say. So now Underdog is very much losing pace in relation to Gert. They had a pretty decent exit, though, out of turn 9. Now, one thing's for sure is that we've also got 2 contenders that can still potentially grab P6 and P7 potentially if they can close onto the back of Underdog, that being of Echo and Shredder. Echo closing in a little bit on Underdog, though Underdog is really closing in on Gert, actually. He's got really good straight line speed in relation to that Alfa Romeo. He's not able to do anything with that. He's just going to have to stay behind for one more lap unless he manages to get amazing straight line speed out of here, though that is not the case. Instead, it only gains around a 10th. And now Underdog is just having to stay behind for another lap, and that might actually be the end of it for P5 in this race. Underdog, though, he's really trying to stretch these mediums here. He's really trying to stretch it. Lap 20. He has 11 laps to go on those mediums. I don't think he's going to make it to the end, if I'm being perfectly honest. If he can, he's a tire-saving god. But, yeah. I don't know. It's a stretch. It's a big stretch. Loud Balloon has left the session. It's unfortunate what happened to him. He's just had, well, too many spins and not exactly having the pace. And, yeah, he became the 5th retirement in this race. Echo slowly closing in on Underdog here. Quick Tongue gets a 3-second time penalty. By the way, we only have 2 drivers now in this race that don't have a time penalty. That being of Yordster and Gary, who currently is sitting 2nd and 3rd. Yordster is way off of Stig, so Stig with that time penalty is not going to matter. And, well, Gary has fallen off the back of Yordster, and, well, I think P3 might be the best for him unless something happens. We'll have to see Echo getting a decent exit there out of the final corner. And it looks like it's not going to be enough, though. Obviously, he doesn't have the DRS, which doesn't exactly help him. So he's going to have to stay behind, close in on that AlphaTauri, and go again. Kieran saying hello in the chat. Hello, Kieran. It's Koenigsegg now gets a 3-second time. Let's look over at time penalties for a quick second. Obviously, the race leader, Stig, only has 3 seconds. He's one of the 3 drivers, that have only 6 seconds in this race. And, well, 6 seconds for Gert, Koenigsegg, Echo, and Raven Kerouac. 9 seconds for Shredder. 8 seconds for the unknown. And, well, that's your time penalty situation. And, well, right now, it could still potentially play a factor in this race. Echo having a little bit of a moment there through turns 8 and 9. That's cost him a little bit. Though he's still going to have DRS quite comfortably, as he just seems to have the superior grip at this stage of the race. There we go, Echo with the DRS. He doesn't have the ERS levels, though, in relation to Underdog. He definitely has the straight line speed in that Mercedes. He's not going to make a move, though, into turn 13. He gets a decent exit, though, out of the final corner. Once again, has the DRS. Can he potentially make a move into turn 1? Underdog just defends that inside, and he's able to stay ahead. So Underdog just able to have that little bit of defense in relation to the tires that he has. And Echo having to stay behind for one more lap. Meanwhile, battle for P2 might be starting to heat up a little bit as Gary is starting to close in on Yortster once again. And, well, we'll see if Gary could potentially make a move on Yortster in this race. We'll just have to find out. That's really it. We'll just have to find out. Can he steal P2 near the dying stages of this Canadian Grand Prix? It's been a pretty calm, I guess. Safety cars. Oh, Echo! Right as I say that, Echo. Oh. Heart and mouth type situation there, as he's actually going to go on the inside of Shredder, and that is contact between the two. Even more contact. That was a bit of a bold move, and there was a lot of contact between those two drivers. Shredder's now up into P7, Echo to P8. Is that damage, though, for the Alpine? I bet Shredder is probably a little bit miffed that Echo did that, as Gert now gets another 3-second time penalty. That's now 9 seconds for the Alfa Romeo, as I believe Shredder does have front wing damage. It looks like Echo is going to clear that Alpine. He has the inside, though Shredder able to keep it around the outside, wheel-to-wheel through to turn 2. Shredder has an inside line. Echo has a superior grip. There's a little bit of contact once again. Echo trying to go around the outside. Shredder able to defend that inside, and Shredder is able to keep his position up into P7. Echo still having to hold on to P8 in this race, having to stay behind that Alpine for a little bit longer, but that Alpine does not have the luxury of DRS in relation to Echo. Echo definitely has more grip, and it looks like the Alpine does have a little bit of damage, and Echo able to make his way up into P7, and indeed he does. So now Echo up into P7, Shredder up into P8. A little bit of a little tense moments between them. You can definitely say that, but Shredder just having to stay behind, now behind him. Meanwhile, battle for P2 is now starting to heat up as well, as Yortster now under pressure once again from Gary. So Gary finally able to switch those medium compounded tires on, and well, now he's trying to pressurize Yortster in this race for P2. So he's trying to grab that podium. Obviously, at the rate this is going, he will keep his record of 100% podiums. I think he wants to go 100% top 2 at this rate, which is looking like he's trying to do. But it seems like Yortster just has more traction in relation to that Mercedes right now at this stage of the race. So with that, Yortster's able to stay ahead. Ooh, Gary having a little bit of a squirrely exit out of that corner, but he's able to stay close once again. So that Mercedes, he's just trying to keep on the back of this car, and well, it's definitely helping him. As unknown, I could say 3-second time penalty. So with that, and it's not really gonna change much for the unknown. Actually, well, he has 8 more seconds in relation to Quick Tongue. No, Quick Tongue has to gain around a second if he wants to try and get that position back. As well, 6 laps of this race. So far, this is really the closest battle here in this Grand Prix. And Stig is loving life, I believe. I believe he's just loving life. He doesn't need to push. It's almost like Max Verstappen in real life. That's pretty much what he's doing. Oh, Gary having a little bit of a moment there out of turns 8 and 9. But he's, once again, just able to stay within that DRS. Once again, that is helping him in this race. As, oh, that is Shredder. That is Shredder further back, having a huge moment out of turn 7. And, well, that has cost him a huge load of time. As Underdog still trying to hold on to that precious P6 in this race. He's got 22 lap old mediums at this stage, and well, it might finally come to bite him as Echo's looking to make the move out of the hairpin, and he's got the DRS. Underdog though having some pretty good straight line speed in that AlphaTauri. They're actually still going wheel to wheel, you know, through this corner, and Underdog able to stay ahead. Underdog still able to keep that car ahead of Echo, though Echo did back off a little bit. I don't think he's going to back off this time around. Is he going to try and go around the outside? He definitely thinks about it. Underdog is just able to cover him off. Echo, though, oh, he had a little bit of a look out of turn 2, through turn 2, really. But that curb unsettling the car a little bit. And, well, that has absolutely cost him. And he's just having to stay behind. He's having a little bit of a look. He wants that P6 for Mercedes. He wants Mercedes to grab more points for the constructors in relation to Alfa Romeo, or Alfa Romeo's getting 10. And Echo now making the move into turn 9, or turn 8, sorry. And finally, Echo is ahead of Underdog, though. Underdog has that slipstream, has that DRS, and he's potentially looking. No, he doesn't. He's gonna have to stay behind for at least a couple more seconds, unless this DRS really helps him right now. He has the DRS, he has the slipstream, as Echo's low on ERS. Underdog is not, and while he is thinking about it, is the AlphaTauri. And well, that looks like that is gonna settle. That's actually Gert around. That is Gert around through the final corner on the main straight, and there's debris all over the track. Green flag still, but now Gert has just cost points for Alfa Romeo, and well, this is not what Alfa wanted in the battle for constructors. Now Gert has to pit. He would have to pit and potentially go for a fastest lap, but this has absolutely ruined his race. As Echo's completely pulled away now from, he has completely pulled away now from Underdog behind, and now Shredder is closing in onto the back of Underdog, so maybe there isn't damage on that Alpine, looking like he still has the pace in this race, as wow. He's looked like he had a lot more traction through that hairpin, and well, this is just going to be an easy move for the Alpine, as he's going to go to the left-hand side, sorry, and yep, easy move there for the Alpine, and he is up to P6. As Koenigsegg grabs a 3-second time penalty once again. How many time penalties is that? That is 9 seconds right now for the Aston Martin, but he's still clear in P4 pretty much. I mean, he only has around 3 more laps to go, and he's gonna just easily take it, as now Gert is into the pits in this lap, obviously without that front wing. And well, there we go, set of softs for the Alfa Romeo. Well, he should easily get. Oh, actually no, he's still going to be in P9 as Quick Tongue actually goes into the pits. Because I'm seeing a couple of pending incidents. I'm not sure what for. But nonetheless, though. So Quick Tongue and Gert now onto a set of softs, and that is going to be easy for them. Ooh, now Gary gets a 3-second time penalty. Gary gets a 3-second time penalty on the second to last lap of this race, and well, that has just absolutely cost him. By the way, Koenigsegg into the pits. Koenigsegg went into the pits at the end of this lap. And, well, I think he's gonna... Is he gonna come out ahead of Echo? He might be able to. It's gonna be a bit tight. Actually, well, it wasn't really tight at all, as Koenigsegg is able to get ahead, and, well, easily. And he's gonna try and now go for fastest lap. Bit of a quiet. It's been a quiet Canadian Grand Prix near the dying stages of this race, as we're on the final lap of this race. The Stig actually set the fastest lap on the penultimate lap of this race. So Yortster, all Yortster needs to do now is just not get a time penalty. That's all he needs to do. He just needs to not get a time penalty, and that should be easily P2 for him. And well, he's able to hold it into turn 1. That should be, well, no, it's not gonna be done deal, but it's gonna be bit of smooth sailing now, because he does, like, all he needs to do is make it through a couple of corners, and he's pretty much got it now in this race. By the way, Koenigsegg not able to pull away from Echo. He's definitely got the superior grip as we are coming on to the final straight for Stig. And well, Stig, it's been the dream pretty much here in Canada. Took pole. He may have not led into turn 1, but he's just simply had the pace. No one, absolutely no one, can match Stig here in the Canadian Grand Prix. And no one could ever catch up to him. He built the gap. He had the pace. And well, he's going to take the most dominant win here in Tier 3. Stig wins the Canadian Grand Prix. He bounces back from his DNF in Baku, and he takes his first win and his first podium of the season. Meanwhile, Jordster is still managing to hold off Gary, and indeed he has done it through the final corner as Gary is actually looking for a slipstream through the final corner there across the line. But Gary, obviously having that time penalty, he's gonna get third. Jordster manages to grab second place in this race. Gary still having that 100% podium finish. And Koenigsegg is going to come around the final corner. It could have been so much more, but he'll gladly take a P4 and the fastest lap for good measure with a 112.7. So Aston Martin does get the fastest lap, and that's now 13 points for him. Echo manages to grab 5th in this race, and well, that's exactly what he would have wanted. Underdog will take P6. Shredder did cross the line first, but Underdog obviously having less time penalties, that is going to help him. Shredder P7. Unknown is going to come across the line in P8. Gert P9. Quick Tongue P10. Raymond Killerak, unfortunately, just missing out of the points. But Stig, what a dominant display. A dominant display here in Canada. He wins. His Underdog will take driver of the day. And there you go. The race winner of the Canadian Grand Prix and most dominant display. It is Tyrrell Stig on the top step of the podium for Red Bull. Jordster will grab second place. It gains a little bit on Gary. Gary, though, extending his championship lead once again, I believe. Actually, no, he might not. I don't know. But still, wow. Just a dominant win here in Canada, and, well, that's exactly what Stig would have wanted. He's had the pace this entire season, and on round 6, it's the lucky number 6. He takes it. I shall now invite the drivers for their interviews as well. We'll go through the running order. Stig wins the Canadian Grand Prix by a mile ahead of Jordster. Gary will grab 3rd place. Once again, another podium for the Mercedes. Koenigsegg will grab 4th on his debut and fastest lap for good measure. Echo will round out the top 5. Once again, another good day for Mercedes. Underdog will take P6 ahead of Shredder. The unknown, Gert Quick Tongue, rounding out the top 10. Raymond Killerak just missing out on the podium places. Sorry. Points paying positions. And we lost Loud Balloon, Kieran, DeCoach, Days Freak, and Iceman from the Canadian Grand Prix, and I believe for the first time a safety carless Grand Prix here in Tier 3. I'm not entirely sure. Someone had to fact check me on that, but I believe that is. And I believe we have the drivers here for interviews, so we can get this done pretty quickly. And we shall start with P3 for this Canadian Grand Prix, that being Gary. Now, Gary, you started on the front row here in Canada, but it just looked as if you weren't able to switch on the tires in relation to everyone around you, and well, it didn't seem like you had the pace, but you still had some pretty good battles nonetheless, and well, you managed to grab 3rd place. Once again, another podium. But tell us your thoughts on that race.
Yeah, exactly like you say. I didn't feel like I connected and just kept the back end, putting so much throttle on. Like I say, keeping with the guys so much, but once I dropped out the DRS, they were just sailing away. And I could only keep them behind for so long, and like I say, Jord hit a couple of laps before me, came out. Like I say, I managed to pull it, but I couldn't overtake him well. And that 3-second penalty killed me at the end, but no, great racing. I'm happy with 3rd, so can't complain.
I mean, you grab your 6th straight podium, and you're still the only guy to finish on the podium in every single race. So, I mean, you can't really be disappointed. I still think you extend your championship lead. If not, if you don't, then it's only by like 1 or 2 points that you miss out. But still, nonetheless, still another good day for you and for Mercedes, as well as Echo managed to grab 5th. So once again, Mercedes proving their hand. And now we go on a little bit of a break next week. We have a bit of a break week, but I'm going to take this time now to either just kind of settle yourself knowing that you have this lead, or are you just going to bounce straight into it and get ready for the British Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, pretty much bounce right into it, get ready for the Grand Prix, and give it a all as you always do. But no, great race again, and I'll look forward to another one at my home ground.
Yeah, the British Grand Prix, it's always an interesting race over at Britain, and we'll see what we have in store there. But yeah, nonetheless, though, once again, congratulations on another podium. You almost seem untouchable in terms of podiums, and we'll see how that happens in 2 weeks' time. With that, though, we'll move on to the 2nd place driver of this Canadian Grand Prix, that being of Yortster. And, well, Yortster, you said after missing out on Imola that you wanted to try and bounce back, try and get ahead of Gary and beat Gary in this race. And, well, it looked as if it wasn't going to be the case, but then obviously through the middle stages of that race, you managed to catch up to Gary, and with that, you managed to grab 2nd place by, well, I would say a photo finish, but Gary had that time penalty, but it was still technically a photo finish. And, well, 2nd place, you bounced right back, but tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, I was getting nervous when I seen Gary going along those hards, because he's really good at managing tires, and I was thinking maybe another VSC or, you know, even an SC would screw me pretty good, but the undercut worked out well, but he pulled on me so quick. I just had to pretty much not make a mistake, or he was going to capitalize on it again. I went wide there once, and I just got flashbacks from Mola, but thankfully I was able to conserve a bit of DRS and kind of hold him off, but I expect he's going to come back a lot stronger in Great Britain.
Well, that's actually going to be another question. You say that he's going to come back in Britain, and obviously that's going to be in 2 weeks' time, so you have a break week, as I mentioned before. I'm just going to take this time thinking, what can I do to get closer to Gary? Like, yeah. What are you going to do during this break?
Well, I mean, this being my home race, I had a bit of extra motivation, so now I'm going to fight him 2 weeks' time with himself having extra motivation, and that's probably not going to be good.
Homeboy versus homeboy.
Exactly, yeah, so... No, I really enjoy it. I feel like we really feed off each other, we make each other better, and I think it's going to be another good race in a couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be very tasty. We'll just have to see in 2 weeks' time. But once again, congratulations to you on 2nd place. Once again, that podium just seems, that win just seems out of reach. Yeah. You'll get it, though. I believe in it. I believe in it.
Thank you.
Speaking of wins, though, we'll go over to the winner of the Canadian Grand Prix, and my, oh my, was that dominant. Obviously, taking pole in Canada, and, well, you may have not led into turn 1, lap 1, but you just simply had the pace to get ahead, and, well, you pulled away from everybody. No one can match your pace. No one can match your consistency. And you take the win here in the Canadian Grand Prix. And tell us how you feel after that.
Honestly, I have no words. This is going to be my first F1 win in BRL. Second first pole. Just an insane weekend. I screwed up my grid spot at the start, giving Gary the advantage in T1. Then I was just hard pushing. Got a penalty lap 2. But as soon as I got by Gary when I had DRS past lap 5, when I finally got him out of mine, I wasn't pushing at all. I was just trying to play it safe, not kill the tires, not kill myself, and just finish. I don't think my tires ever hit over 40 or 45%. But it was just consistency and just pace from nowhere. And after the season, this is exactly what I needed.
Well, I mean, I pretty much said on stream as this was happening that you were pretty much looking like Max Verstappen. Like, you were pretty much untouchable. And it's kind of convenient that you were in the Red Bull. And while you did exactly that, you took a dominant win. Like I said, it's exactly what you needed, especially after last week as well, having that DNF. You definitely bounced back. 2 weeks, though, we go over to the British Grand Prix. Obviously, we have that break week, as I already mentioned before. Are you going to try and keep this momentum? Just put in those laps, keep that momentum in, and try and just close up more in this potential championship? Or what are you going to do now that you have this momentum on your side?
Well, I hope I can bring it into Britain. It's a pretty good track for me. But just, yeah, trying to keep consistent, stay out of my head, and just put laps in.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be the key, but we'll just have to see in 2 weeks' time. But now we're going to take a bit of a break from Tier 3 for now. But from me, that is going to be everything for Tier 3 tonight. Be sure to tune in tomorrow, though, for Tier 1 and Tier 2. And then, unfortunately, you guys won't see us next week. I know, it's hard, it's heart-shattering. But, you know, us drivers need breaks, too, you know. We kind of need them. And then 2 weeks from now, we go over to the British Grand Prix, a home track for quite a few people in Breakout Racing League. We'll just have to see what the British Grand Prix has in store for us, as it's always going to be a spectacle, starting with Realistic on Thursday, and then 2 weeks from now, same time, same place, and, well, we'll see what will happen. But now it's time for us to take a bit of a break here in Tier 3. For Minico, that is everything. Good day, good night, see you for Tier 1 and Tier 2 tomorrow.